Slanjivar, my fellow Zenites. Welcome everybody to another episode of DeFi Truth. I'm Conrad Zen, former Bitcoin Foundation member and now evangelist for Pzen. Well, another tumultuous week in crypto, that's for sure. And I think we've all earned a little tot of rum, so I'm going to kick off the proceedings this afternoon with a single cube of ice and then a little tot from the Clement 1952, aged and created down here in Martinique. So Slanjivar, everyone. Makes the camera go crazy when I do that. So the interesting news this week, obviously the SPF FTX debacle continues, but the big story of the week, of course, is if you've been following along with my expose of what's happening with Barry Silbert's digital currency group and the imminent collapse of Genesis, we've seen the discount on the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust deepen to 47%. Look, it was 50% for a brief time. It recovered. Now it's down to 47%. Why is that? Well, I think everybody's beginning to realize that what I said was absolutely true. There is a $2 billion hole in the balance sheet, and Barry Silbert has got to cover it somehow. Is he going to dig in to the Grayscale shares to realize the money that's required to prop up Genesis? Who knows? We don't know. My view is that somewhere around December the 15th, round about when Sam BF is supposed to be in Washington testifying before Congress, the news may come out that Genesis has quietly filed for bankruptcy. Watch this space. But there's an even bigger elephant in the room that nobody is talking about, and that is, of course, central bank digital currencies. I was in a Twitter space the other day and I was surprised to learn that some news I had missed from the ECB regarding the framework for the euro digital currency. And I kid you not, this is kind of frightening. I'm just going to see if I can put this picture up because this is actually real. And he said this at the conference, and I'm talking, of course, about Mr. Panetta. And he said that when they launch the euro digital currency, they are going to limit transactions to 50 euros. They're also going to limit your ability to store this euro digital currency, and nobody will be able to hold more than 3,000 euros in their accounts. This is insanity. And the 50 euro cap is to do with anti-money laundering. This is mind-boggling stupidity. So if you think you're immune because you're living in the United States, well, guess what? It's going to be happening to you very soon, which is why you really need to do your own research and start writing to your congressman, because they don't even understand what crypto is. They certainly don't understand what decentralized finance is. And for them to be introducing a digital currency to replace cash is just mind-boggling. And all that entails. Look, China is about 30 years ahead of the rest of the world. And just look what is happening there right now. If you go to the right places, you can see the real news there. And there are riots all over the country, ostensibly to do with the virus lockdowns, but also because the digital yuan has been foisted on the economy, and they're suddenly realizing just the control that that has given the centralized government if they needed any more control over their lives. For example, 216,000 air tickets were declined when they tried to pay with a digital one because they simply weren't good enough communist citizens. You think that can't happen to you? Well, think again. Anyway, so let's go back to what's happening in the markets. And of course, the big news over this week is, as I've tried to explain before, one of the key indicators of the health of the traditional finance markets is the yield curve in Treasury bonds. Most people look at the 2-year and the 10-year bonds. And this week, the 10-year bond interest rate fell again. And that means there is an inverted curve, meaning that the 2-year bonds are paying more interest than the 10-year bonds. It's supposed to be the other way around. Now, if you watch my video on the Fed plan, you'll see exactly why that has all gone wrong. But what does that mean to us? Well, actually, the future for decentralized finance is looking very, very bright. Carol House, who was on the committee when Biden introduced his executive order a few months ago, trying to get cryptocurrencies regulated, she came out and stated quite clearly that decentralized finance is about to play a huge role and will continue to play an even greater role in the economy of the United States of America. Now, notwithstanding they're trying to regulate it, they acknowledge the fact that there is a huge amount of capital that is going to flow into that sector. And some of that is undoubtedly going to end up in this thing. Good for us. Now, let's have a look at the performance of traditional markets as opposed to, Pzen. Let's have a look. I want to pick one of the best performing stocks that there is. And I've just done a quick graph to show you the year-to-date performance levels. And you can see here, this is from Trading View. All of you can go off and create this graph yourself. And you can see ARK, A-R-K-K. This is the darling stock of the technology sector. Of course, Cathay Wood is the manager there, an extremely bright young woman. And she was riding the crest of the wave with her investment philosophy up until very recently. You see, what she was doing were picking stocks that performed extremely well in low interest rate environments and when the government was printing money like there was no limit. However, since May of this year, that performance has fallen off a cliff. And you can see that the holders of shares in the darling ARK Trust are down 32%. Meanwhile, those of us who understand the opportunity of Pzen are up a very nice 329%. I'm embarrassed to even show this graph. It's phenomenal. Follow the money, not the FUD. That's all I have to say. So, the Fed have got it all wrong. There is no doubt about it. Look, let's just have a look again about what their goal is, what their plan is, because it's very important to understand the macroeconomic environment. So, for those of you who don't know what the Fed plan is and how it's going to affect you, here is what the media is not focused on. You see, the Fed took a position that inflation would be contained by supply chain issues being resolved. So when inflation figures indicated that it was out of control at 9% plus, and indeed real inflation that we all suffer was closer to 20%, they started to panic. So here is their plan. They aim to stifle demand by causing an economic catastrophe. Their first tool to bring down inflation is to sell the trillions of government bonds they've accumulated over the past few years. Now, the problem with that is that the market for these bonds has three main buyers: the Fed, commercial banks, and foreign governments. And if you want to know what that looks like, see the previous video when we talk about the Ponzi scheme that is the Federal Reserve. Now, the reversal in demand from each of these three different investors types is shocking. Nobody wants to buy these bonds. And so the only way they're going to be able to sell the bonds is by raising the interest rates on the government bonds. They will have to go up to attract the buyers. And that means that interest rates on everything else goes up. The housing market. Mortgage rates go up, less people can afford to buy a home. For the Fed, that equals less demand for homes, which means a home price collapse. Jerome Powell has stated he wants to see a housing market correction. He might get his wish. Businesses will stop taking out loans to expand because it's too expensive to borrow money. Less expansion equals less hiring equals less wage inflation. Less expansion means businesses will purchase less equipment, they'll rent less office space, they will buy less, the supplies that they buy will be less, and therefore demand equals lower inflation. Now, the Federal Reserve thought inflation would be transitory, and they've left it far too late to apply the sledgehammer tools they have. There is no fine-tuning in their toolkit. Now, the next thing is that the stock market could collapse with what the Fed is doing, because without easy money, without the quantitative easing, I mean, let's face it, 92% of all of the printed money over the past few years has gone into the stock market. It didn't go into your pocket, it certainly didn't go into my pocket. And so now, high interest rates plus quantitative tightening will collapse the market. And if it does collapse, an awful lot of people are going to be hurt. The first thing that's going to happen is that retirement accounts are going to be decimated. Nobody is going to be able to afford to retire. People will lose money in the stock market, especially retail investors. And of course, that's devastating enough, but it also means that the tax revenues fall, which puts more pressure on the government budget. Interest rates are going to keep going up. Quantitative tightening will continue because the Fed needs to create a disaster to actually get rid of inflation. And that is what is panicking everybody. It is a disaster scenario in the making. Any one of those three things coming true will be extremely painful. And of course, what may happen is that the Fed will say, well, you either want a Great Depression or we start printing money. And the whole cycle continues yet again. We need an alternative system. We need a great reset tool. You see, wealth isn't scarce. Look at this graphic of the world's wealth. The problem is we need to redistribute that wealth in a more equitable way. And we need a new system of money, which is why we came up with the Web 3.0 socially engineered token called Pzen. It is the Great Wealth Reset tool. Watch this video to see how it actually works. So here is what we think is actually going to happen. We think that the Fed realizes they are between a rock and a hard place. If they raise the interest rates above 4.5%, they can't actually afford to service the debt because the United States is so far in debt that the interest payments are beyond what the government generates. So we think that interest rates will peak at 4.5%, but the 4.5% is going to be here for a very, very long time. And that's going to have the same effect of raising rates higher for a shorter period of time, So what we're going to see going forward is in 2023, things are going to start to become very horrible. And that's going to last well into 2024. But here is the silver lining of all this pain in the traditional finance economy. All the money that is sitting in the stock market and hedge funds, they all need yield. You see, I've been down at this boat show all week where I've been talking to some extremely wealthy people, multi-billionaires. And it's totally surprising to me that 14 years on, some of them haven't even heard of Bitcoin. And most of them don't even understand what Bitcoin is. And when you start talking about decentralized finance, their eyes glaze over. They simply do not get the concept. But as soon as you mention passive income yield, that's when their ears prick up. Because passive income, generating yield on your money, is the name of the game in finance. That is what you are all striving to do. It's not to accumulate $1 million in your bank account. That isn't going to save you. What is going to save you is how much yield you can generate on that money. And this is exactly what the premise of Pzen is all about. And it is a very simple protocol to explain, as you've seen from that very simplistic little 2-minute movie about Pzen. And it is by telling stories that humans communicate. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to show you this very short clip explaining in detail the power of the eighth wonder of the world, and that is compound interest. Because the more eyeballs that get into this protocol, the better everybody is going to become. Your financial future is going to be created by your actions today. And this protocol isn't a moon boy math protocol, as some people have suggested. This is for the long term. This is generational wealth. You should be thinking about being in Pzen for decades to come. It should be something that you hand down to your families in the future. Look, let's just show this very quick story about the power of compound interest. If there is one thing that I could change about the education curriculum, it would be to add the teaching of the power of compound interest from the age of 5. Let me show you the power of compound interest by retelling the fable of the king of Ambalapoosa. He liked to play chess, and every so often he would invite people to play against him. One day, a venerable sage appeared, and the king asked him, "If you win, how should I pay you?" And the venerable sage said, "Well, sire, I would like to be paid in Pzen, and if you just give me 1 Pzen doubled on each square, then that will be my prize." So the king tried this out for himself, and from his bag of Pzen, he placed 1 Pzen on square 1, he placed 2 on square 2, 4 on 3, and 8 on 4. And he thought to himself, well, if I lose, it's not going to cost me that much. So he agreed to the terms, and they started to play. Well, lo and behold, the venerable sage played exceptionally well, and he won their game. And true to his word, the king decreed that the bag of Pzen be brought out, and he started to count them out onto the board in accordance with the sage's wishes. He was shocked when he got to the 12th square and had to count out 2048 Pzen. When he got to the 30th square, it was even more shocking because he had to count out 536 million Pzen. And by the time he got to the 40th square, it was 550 billion Pzen. And on the last square, the 64th square, he had to count out 9,220,000 trillion Pzen. The total was 18,500,000 trillion Pzen. So the moral of the story is this: time and compound interest are your friend. Remembering your rewards in Pzen are compounded every day, so long as you hodl and allow it to accumulate over a period of time. 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, you will have generational wealth. I'm Conrad Pzen, advocating the opportunity that is Pzen. So I think we're getting the picture now, and a lot of people will be joining us, that is for sure. Look, when we first came to market, we were having volumes between 500 and $1 million a day, if you look back at the charts. Now, excuse me, because of all the misinformation and the FUD, we're building back trust in this protocol. And as time goes on, people will realize that this isn't a scam. This is your way out. We are at a confluence in history today where we've never been before. We actually have a tool in Pzen which allows us to fight back against the rotten system, the rotten financial system that we find ourselves in, all of us, where the wealthy just keep getting more wealthy and the poor just keep getting more poor. Decentralization, the Pzen protocol, is your tool to change your financial future. And the community will grow, the trust will come back, and the protocol can just only go one way, just like your Pzen wallet balance every day. Now, of course, nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone 15 years into the future. But we do know that math doesn't lie. You've seen the figures yourself. You've seen the results yourself. And it will only increase as volume increases. So there we are. That's my short broadcast today on what the opportunity of Pzen is. It's up to you to understand where you are in this financial world, and it's up to you to take action, which is why we can never give you financial advice, because financial advice is personal to your own situation, and I could never know everybody's personal situation here. So this is just education. We're telling you and explaining to you what this is. Now you have to go off and do your own research and decide for yourself how you want to handle your financial future going forward. So I did promise a little draw today, so I guess, are we ready to see what the Pulsinator is going to spit out today? So if you'd like to put a 1 in the chat and let me know you're all ready for the Pulsinator. Quite a lot of people registered this week, surprisingly. Okay, I'll just wait for a few 1s in the chat, and then we'll be off to the Pulsinator room where hopefully we're ready to roll. Let's just see where we are. And of course, it's failed. Why would that be? Okay, just bear with me and my ugly mug while we try and fix this problem. It's always the same on a live broadcast. There's always something wrong. All the time, there's always something wrong. Can you hear me? So, once again, we have a technical problem. Can you hear me? And we may or may not be able to hear the machine running, but here we go for the first name. The first name out of the pulsator machine is going to be winning 100 Pulse Zen. So let's just head over now. You may or may not hear the sounds, but let's just see what happens. Here we go. There it is, solid. Solid is the first name out of the machine, and Solid, congratulations, 100,000 Pulse Zen will be winging its way to your Ethereum wallet by Monday, UTC midnight time. So, we're on a roll. I wonder if we can get another name out of the machine. Let's go. Harville is the next winner. Congratulations. Congratulations, Harville. You are the winner of 200,000 Pulse Zen. And so for the third and final name, coming out of the hat today, for 500,000 Pzen, here we go. And so the final winner of the massive 500,000 Pzen is CL77. CL77. There we have it. That is the magic of Pulse Zen, the giving crypto. So, obviously we have audio issues, so I'm going to be ending the broadcast whilst you can still hear me. I'll just say hello to a few people who've joined very kindly. I'll say hello to Crypto Steve. Hello to you, sir. Nice to see you. Jakra. Hello. Crypto Ethos. Nice to see you. Mr. Profit 74. Keiko. Nice. Joel Ramirez. Steve Mojo. Thank you all for watching my short live broadcast today. The future for decentralized finance is looking very bright. Despite all the headlines in mainstream media about the fall of crypto, decentralized finance is not going anywhere. And in fact, the new network economy that you can all be part of today is just going to go from strength to strength. I'm Conrad Zen for Truth in DeFi, former Bitcoin Foundation member and evangelist for Pulse Zen. I thank you so much for watching me, and if you're a replay watcher, thank you so much for joining, and congratulations once again to all of our 3 well-deserved winners, and we're giving away around 800,000 Pulse Zen today. Wow, Pulse Zen, the giving crypto, every single day. Slanjor everyone, and I will see you in the next live broadcast. Thank you once again.